Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. Today's episode is produced by Strava Craft Coffee, the CBD-infused coffee, which you can now purchase in K-Cups or, of course, whole bean and ground options as well. I am your host, Rudolph3. Joining me, as always, is AJ Haefele. We are back to talk about, well, the not super insane draft lottery, but as so many in the world predicted, there is at least one team from the play-in rounds that will not only be part of the top three picks, they will get the first overall pick in the NHL this season.
Dope.
You're a fan? You're a fan of the mystery first overall pick winner?
Sure.
That means that every single team in the playoff round that loses will have a 12.5% chance to pick first overall of the 8 teams. There are some odd specifics with picks that have been traded and things like that we can dive into in a little bit here. But ultimately, I don't like this, to be honest with you.
Okay, why? State your case.
Because they could have waited 2 months and then done this after the play-in round was over, and we would know who this first overall pick was already.
Yep, nothing would be different.
It would be exactly the same.
Yeah.
So
that was always the argument, right?
Yep.
Why are they rushing this? And it just seems like, okay, the NHL had 20 minutes in the sun on social media when everybody was like, oh my God, chaos, madness, the NHL, oh my gosh. And then everybody sort of just went back to their lives.
Yeah. It felt like the typical announcement of an announcement type scenario for the NHL, where it's like, cool, we had the lottery, now we do the lottery again. And I mean, look, I guess it's fine. Nothing's really going to change too much. It wasn't the doomsday scenario where all 3 picks were from play-in teams or something like that. But still, personally, slightly annoyed by the fact that I don't think it was rigged. Let me start by that. No reason to believe that. You're stupid if you do believe that.
Where's the conspiracy here?
Right. Like,
you have to work so hard to conjure up a conspiracy for this one.
I tweeted it as a joke for the record.
Oh, well, clearly it's rigged for Chicago, Montreal, Pittsburgh, Toronto, Edmonton. Pick a team that loses in their play-in round. Like what? It's the only teams that would get that pick where people aren't going to freak out and claim conspiracy are like Columbus.
Yep.
Or the Islanders. Where you're just like, well, this is harmless.
So
I can't twist myself into the kind of mental gymnastics needed in order to conjure up a conspiracy for this one. So that's fine. Like, well, no, he went to the Jets. That'll help their defense.
Right. Like, from that aspect,
please don't go to the Jets.
Luck of the draw. But from the other side of things, it sure is convenient that they set up all of this to have a second lottery, and a pick did happen to fall to the play-in teams. Not just any pick, but the first overall pick. So, in that regard, it worked out very well for the NHL.
Sure. I don't care.
At all?
Here. I won't say at all. I think that it was delightful watching Detroit get screwed.
Dropped to 4, yeah.
It was delightful. Like, look, we sat through this twice in Colorado. So that it happened once for them. Like I was really not looking forward to them getting a top 2 pick. I didn't want it. Not after what had happened, right? because it was Detroit. If it was somebody else, I would have felt differently. But because it was Detroit, and then watching their radio guy act like it was the indignity of the century was incredible. That night on Twitter, just because it was like, where was this the last couple of times? Like, you didn't care at all when this exact same thing happened to Colorado.
Not once,
you did not say anything. Like, I looked. You didn't care at all until this happened to the Red Wings. And now all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, they were so far in last place. We sat through a full 48-point season. Y'all got put out of your misery. You didn't even have to finish your bull. All right? Like, you got to pull up short. Like, your lame duck even got lamer. I just don't want to hear it from Detroit. The thing is that since they've done this, since they have switched over to these odds with the last place team having the 18.5%, it's been 4 years of this. 3 of these results have now taken place where the top team dropped all the way to 4. The one time it didn't, the top team got first, and that was Buffalo with Dolly.
Yeah. Yep. And
okay,
the thing about it is, and this is not meant to be a knock on national media, but more of just a reality. Colorado is not a big market when it comes to the national coverage.
Definitely.
And they are the team that before this one had missed on the lottery twice.
Yeah.
When a team from the East Coast misses, when a team with a storied franchise like Detroit misses, all of a sudden there's a lot more outrage about the system being broken.
Well, and it's funny because the original 6 teams had benefited. The Rangers got the 2nd pick last year. Chicago got the 3rd pick. You know, like there had been some there had been some original 6 love in this format. And now all of a sudden they go all the way down to 4, and like mystery team is 1, the Kings are 2, Ottawa is 3. And it was like Ottawa by way of San Jose.
And like Ottawa still got screwed because they had 2 top 3 picks and ended up with 5th and 3rd.
Right.
Like,
they're at 3 and 5.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to go back and if that had happened, and this is something that I definitely want to talk about in this show, but 3 and 5, if that had happened to a team had those picks and that had happened in 2017, you're walking out of there with Miro Heiskanen and Elias Pettersson.
Yep.
Feel pretty good about that today.
Pretty okay in hindsight, for
but
sure.
If that had happened last year, you're walking out with Kirby Dach and Alex Turcotte. Still not hating life, but feeling a little bit, it's a different level than Pettersson and Heiskanen, where you're like, well, I'm set.
Yeah, I mean, Heiskanen and Pettersson you've solved a franchise player at 2 positions. So definitely a bit of a difference there. And we can certainly get into that a little bit more. One other oddity that I wanted to cover in this first period here real quick. There is, in theory, if the New York Rangers win the Stanley Cup, they could also draft first overall.
So I don't think they can, because I was looking at the conditions on this one, and it's like Carolina gets the higher of the picks, or the Rangers get the lower of their picks, something, because Carolina has Toronto's pick, and then I don't know. The conditions on it were such that it would go to the Hurricanes.
The first overall pick would?
Yeah.
Even if it was
so
Toronto.
They can't do both.
Right.
I was going through these conditions. They can't win the cup and get first.
Okay, but they could get first if they don't win the cup but make the playoffs?
Maybe.
Or, I don't know.
I went through these conditions 3 days ago.
The conditions are super duper convoluted.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, cool. Because at first I was like, oh, this could happen. And then We went through it, and then it was like, no. Carolina got Svechnikov already, okay? No, I am not down for him going to Carolina.
Well, we can talk about which teams we like to see get laugh in period number 2.
I would before we get out of here. I would like to say I would like to see the odds adjusted here because I think it's silly. I think it's silly that every single team that doesn't make the postseason is involved in this.
Yeah, I would agree.
This circus. It should be like the bottom 10 teams only. Whatever, right? Every year since they've opened up this format, we've seen one team jump way up
from the teams jump to the top 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether it was Dallas one year, and then Philadelphia. Well, Dallas and Philly in the same year had nice little jumps.
Yep.
And then you had Carolina for Svechnikov. The Rangers jumped up for Kakao.
Yep.
The Devils won first twice when they were in like the 5th or 6th spot each year.
Yep.
Like, I think there needs to be a limit on how many times you can win the first overall pick in like a 3-year window, 4-year window.
I've never been a fan of the lottery in general, which you can read more about when we post our roundtable for the day later tonight. So be sure to check that out when it goes up. Either way, time for our first period break here, as it is time to acknowledge Davidsons Beer, Wine, and Spirits, our go-to shop for any of our alcohol needs, specifically Breckenridge Brewery. They have 2 locations, one in Highlands Ranch and one in not Littleton. Littleton is where you can find the Breckenridge Brewery farmhouse. Highlands Ranch and somewhere that I've lost the name of. But either way, be sure to hit up either location, and you can find over 1,000 different varieties of beer, as well as any of your needs for pickup or delivery if you live nearby. So Centennial, Highlands Ranch and Centennial. I got there eventually. That's where you can find Davidsons Beer, Wine, and Spirits. You can get all sorts of awesome stuff, whatever event you're having these days. As things do start to open up a little bit more, Davidsons has you covered. And be sure to download their app, sign up for their loyalty program as well to get some great deals on your alcohol. All right, second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by Davidsons Beer, Wine, and Spirits, as I just mentioned. First of all, what is the worst team that Lafreniere could go to? I know you mentioned Winnipeg.
That's entirely for personal reasons.
Of course.
I don't want to hear the fiance bragging about that.
But, I mean, let's be honest. Any team in the Central would feel terrible for the Avs.
Right, and that's what's a little scary because if Minnesota loses to Vancouver, very possible. That sucks.
Chicago losing is pretty likely.
Chicago losing, Winnipeg losing. And then you have the lose-lose, Arizona and Nashville, where Arizona has that Taylor Hall voodoo going on. So
Arizona's coming to the Central, so there's a guarantee that at least one Central team is going to be in this.
So priorities, no Central.
Yep.
If I'm trying to put enough pieces together to say how could this be good for Colorado, it's Toronto winning it. Because that would give them the cost-efficient forward that they could justify moving William Nylander for defensive help. And, like, Colorado could put something together not involving Gerard, McCarr, or Byram.
Yeah.
You know, you'd start with Timmins, talk about EJ, do whatever you have to do, right? And then Nylander becomes a very real conversation because they would not need Nylander in Toronto after that ELC ends. They could probably hang on to him. They could probably get away with keep him through the ELC, through Lafreniere's ELC, and just have an elite player be on a $900,000 contract. But they have the piece with Nylander that they could swap for real defensive upgrades in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean, you have to connect a lot of dots for Nylander to end up in Colorado there.
Yeah.
But
then they'd have to outbid everybody.
Right.
And it would probably have to be like a Timmins. Like they would ask for Gerard and honestly
maybe like a first or something on top of Timmins plus another
plus maybe a forward prospect.
Right.
I don't know. And then because there are going to be teams that could offer something up, that would be if they didn't want to move Girard. Like would you do Girard for Nylander straight up?
That'd be pretty tough, man.
It'd be it would be really tempting because Nylander's super, super good. And Timmins could be as good as Girard in the NHL. I don't know that he will be.
The big apprehension there is the deal that Girard is already on, right?
The contract that he signed. He's a specific cost for the entire decade. Like, you're done.
Yep.
And that's where there's a ton of value there. And that's why I say straight up. Because if you were looking at them side by side, Nylander's probably the better player today.
I don't think it's even that close, to be honest with you.
But because of his age, because of the contract, Girard represents a lot of really interesting value in that conversation where that would be very interesting. And I think that's probably where they would have to go to get that done. But beyond that, I'm not sure that there's a way to make this about the Avs that I can find. Just keep him out east.
Make it the least painful.
Right. Mitigate the damage. Because you've already got the Kings at 2.
Yeah.
And given that the one thing their system was lacking was the high-end center, and they're about to get it in Stützle.
You think they go Stützle?
Byfield? I would. Okay. I have gotten more and more comfortable passing on Byfield as we get further into this process.
He feels like such a fit for the Kings, though.
So does Stützle, but
I guess
kind of just depends on what you want.
Fair enough. Not going to argue that too much. When you're picking at 2, you get your pick of the litter. So
and it's like a franchise caliber center is the point.
Exactly.
Between Stützle and Byfield, they're going to get which guy do they like more. And right now, I think it would be the German kid.
All right. Glad
if it's Byfield, man. Like, is that?
Oh no!
Right? Like, is that any better? Like, are we sitting out west? Like, I feel better about the Kings' future being capped somewhere because they have Byfield instead. Because if he lives up to all of his potential, he's like an Eric Lindrosian center. Like, It's if either one of those guys, when they make that pick, if either one of those guys lives up to their potential, it is shit territory for the rest of the West.
Yep.
Because of how loaded that system is. Their defense is a little on the iffy side, but
they're
gonna
just can't carry it by himself anymore,
right? And like, Kilclaig hasn't turned into much of anything. Yeah. Tobias Bjornfoot is like an intriguing prospect, but like not like a top pairing guy that's going to carry them. But their forward depth is going to be so deep that they might be able to trade for it. They might be able to pile up enough quality forward assets and say, hey, we'll give you guys a second line if you guys give us a top defenseman that we need.
Almost the opposite of the Ab situation now.
Exactly.
So, pretty interesting. And, the good news is, outside of the first overall pick mystery, it's only LA at 2 and Anaheim at 6. 4 teams in the West in that top 8.
And I think that's Drysdale or Sanderson. If Drysdale's there, take him because they really need the righty. If he's gone, just take Sanderson. If both guys are gone, chaos.
BPA, baby.
Take Askarov and trade John Gibson to Colorado.
There you go.
That's how you make it about the Avs.
We'll find a way to make it about the Avs eventually. It takes us a while to get there, but
how does this affect the Avs?
Yeah, there we go. Got to turn it Colorado style. Okay, so as
my energy drink is kicked in.
I can tell. Yeah. As we're settling in on this new draft order. Okay, so obviously LA probably benefited the most here, other than the first overall pick. which, clearly a team is about to jump at least 8 spots.
Well, and Lafreniere is going to go to a good club.
Yeah, well, I mean, depending on who falls.
Like if that ends up Edmonton, that's a problem.
I don't know. How does Edmonton even keep making room for those dudes?
Well, I mean, you move out Nugent Hopkins.
Yeah, I guess that's probably the reality.
But that's just because then it's like, oh, we don't need to put McDavid and Draisaitl together anymore. Or we can continue to do that, and now we are truly dominant.
God, that would be stupid. McDavid, Draisaitl, Laffy. There might not be enough pucks on the ice for that line. I don't know. Yeah. Either way, on that one, it would be tough. But as everyone knows, Taylor Hall now plays in Arizona. So should we just consign ourselves to that?
It's their problem is they're still searching down the middle.
Yep.
But Laff is such a good player.
The question is, we have that conversation of, can Laffy drive your team from the wing?
It's funny because some people are, why are people acting like he's generational? Have you seen what this guy's done in the queue for 3 years? This dude has been very special, and I don't. If he ends up having a Patrick Kane-esque career, and I think that's the caliber of.
Yeah.
I think that's the caliber of player we're talking about here. He obviously changes whoever he goes to. It may not happen overnight, but I think certainly by year 3, year 4, whatever team he's playing on is a it's her problem.
It's less that Arizona needs a center and more that they need a play driver, right? Phil Kessel, great goal scorer, but isn't gonna drive play for you.
And none of those younger guys,
right? None of their young core have stepped up really to be that guy. You have a Keller that can be a 50-point guy, but
they've hit a home run in late rounds with Connor Garland. He's been awesome for them.
Yep.
But no offense to Connor Garland, but if he's one of your top guys that you're relying on, you're still not quite at the level that you need to be. Whereas if Garland becomes your 4th best guy, now you're deep, now you're scary.
Yep.
And of course, if he continues to play the way that he has, but he's been such a revelation for them. And Arizona. He would be such a problem in Arizona, regardless of even if Barrett Hayton just ended up okay.
What do you mean? Will end up okay?
I don't need to get into that again. I don't need to get into the part where it feels like I disagree with everything John Chayka does, and not because I have anything against John Chayka. I just look at his moves and I'm like, oh, why are you doing this?
I'm a noted anti-Barrett Hayton pick person. So anyway,
honestly, we could get an Arizona person come on here, and I would be like, why did he do this? And we could just go down the whole list.
Right.
I've disagreed with almost everything.
Yeah, way too much asset management, not enough team building. Anyway, sticking to the actual draft lottery itself, where it may well not be Arizona at the top.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the lottery as a whole, AJ?
Top 10, have it be just the top 10 teams, okay? I think that they've done a good job of dissuading tanking because people forget Buffalo cleaned out their NHL roster for 2 full years for Connor McDavid. And I think that had the league not done something about it, then we would probably be talking about the same thing coming up for what's going to be happening with Shane Wright in 2022.
Since you brought it up.
Attention! Buffalo Sabres fire sale is on now at First Niagara Center. Everything must go. You need a goaltender? We've got goaltenders. We've got a skinny goaltender. We've got a short goaltender. We've got goaltenders. Forward? You need a forward? We've got forwards. We've got Americans, Canadians, Germans, Austrians. Yes, even Austrians. Get here now before. for sale. No reasonable offer refused. How about underachievers? You've got plenty of underachievers. Buy one underachiever, get one free. Defense.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, Buffalo stripped their roster to its absolute bit parts, and all of it in search of Connor McDavid. And like they got Jack Eichel, which is a very good consolation prize. And obviously, we've talked so much about the Sabres, I don't want to get into it again.
Yeah.
So, but they needed to do something about tanking. Arizona did the same thing. Arizona ripped their roster to pieces in search of McDavid or Matthews, and it didn't work out for them. They ended up with Dylan Strome.
Yep.
And life's hard, but they needed to do something, I think, about the tanking. And then the way that they've adjusted the odds, I'm good with the odds being that the team that finished in last place only has an 18% chance to get the first pick. I'm less okay with that team having a greater than 50% chance to get the fourth pick. Because it's we've seen it now 3 of the last 4 years that 50-50 coin flip has gone against those teams. And you do want to have your bad teams getting an infusion of talent so that they can turn things around and get better.
I mean, let's be honest. In the majority, the Avs have been extremely lucky to end up with Cale Makar and Bowen Byram at pick.
Well, and certainly Cale Makar. We're all acting like Bowen Byram's a made, found this is a made man, right? And that he's okay, great. He's going to be an all-star. He's going to be a very good NHL player. We have all the faith in the world. Bowen Byram can end up being Thomas Hickey still.
Absolutely. And that's the point I'm trying to get at here. In the vast majority of draft years, I would say there's usually a big gap after 1 and 2. Sometimes it's 1, 2, and 3. And then you'll see a significant drop-off to the 4th pick. The Makar-Pettersson year is very much an outlier.
Well, and it was an outlier the year that it happened because Heischer was a guy that was a preseason 20th overall or whatever.
Late riser that
went all the way
for the season. Yeah.
So everything about 2017 was not something that you can be like, oh, well, the Avs got 4th and it was fine. The Avs got lucky.
Yep.
The Avs got lucky with being unlucky.
Yep.
It just worked out for them that one time. And then let's be real, it didn't matter who they took last year. They could have taken Zegras. They could have taken Cousins. They could have taken whatever, and we'd still be sitting there saying, oh, the Avs got that guy.
That 4th was a luxury pick.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And let me pull up a couple of older drafts here, and we can take a look at the difference. 2008. First overall pick, Steven Stamkos. Second overall pick, Drew Doughty. Third, Zach Bogosian.
And that was a bit of a surprise at the time.
Yeah, and granted, 4th ended up being Alex Pietrangelo. But even with someone like Pietrangelo compared to Doughty and Stamkos,
yeah, there's a bit of a drop there, just from their primes.
2009, first overall pick, AJ's favorite hockey player. Second,
that was a great draft, though.
But even in this great draft, second overall pick, Victor Hedman. Third overall pick, Matt Duchene. And Matt Duchene is not in the same category.
That's honestly that's one of the better top 4s that we will get to if we're going to go through.
Sure.
However many years, because 4th was Evander Kane.
Yeah, right.
Even 5th at Braden Shen was okay, this is a pretty good draft.
But even with that being a good draft, the difference between 1 and 4.
Yeah, I mean the difference between Trader Swine and Evander Kane is pretty significant. Definitely.
2010, Hall and Sagan go 1-2. Third, Eric Goodbranson.
Yeah, they reached on him too.
4th, Ryan Johansson.
Yeah.
5th, Nino Niederreiter.
A collection of solid NHLers there.
But no Taylor Halls.
Right.
One dude in that draft has an MVP.
Yeah, well, and yeah. Good. Yep, fair enough.
So, point being, you're taking the worst teams in the league and you're knocking them down a tier in talent available to them in the draft.
Yeah. Yeah, and not only that, but it's been the teams that have been hopping up in front. Look at Philadelphia had Nolan Patrick worked out, right? Look at Dallas getting Miro Heiskanen. Look at Carolina getting Svechnikov and Chicago getting Doc. Like that, like those teams didn't bottom out. Those are teams that did not have to go through the painful ripping of the franchise to the studs and rebuilding. They got star caliber players.
You're looking at teams that are at worst in the Calgary zone.
Right. Like those were teams that were, I think all of those teams put up some like 80-point seasons.
Yep.
To some degree. And it's like, those are not bad hockey clubs. And the thing is when those are the teams that are getting those high picks. Look at Buffalo was picked 8th like a bunch of times now.
And they just get buried at 8th.
Right, because they keep dropping. You look at Detroit, a great example. Detroit hasn't been very good either, and that has pushed them into the bottom half of the top 10 multiple times. And
you end up with Philip Zadina instead of Svechnikov.
Right, or you end up with Mort Seider instead of Bowen Byram, which maybe that ends up being a better thing. You end up with Michael Rasmussen instead of Elias Pettersson.
Yep.
I think that was the same draft year.
I believe so.
So, like there's a huge difference there where, oh no, I got the 8th pick instead of the 5th pick or whatever. Like, yeah, it could be a big difference. It's not just 1 to 4, but it's also the 4 to 7 drops.
Yep. Exactly.
You look at last year. You look at the Kings. They finished 2nd. And they end up with Alex Turcotte, who, a year down the road, you have to be a little concerned about that. A little concerned about that pick because he got hurt again, which was the big knock on him coming out of the DP, was staying healthy. He had a nice year at Wisconsin, but could not stay healthy. And you have to be a little worried about him continuing on to pro hockey. And the difference between New Jersey and the Rangers, they got disappointing rookie years out of Hughes and Kakko, but do you think they would trade any of those guys for any of the guys taken after him right now?
Not a chance.
You think they would be like, oh, we'll take Bowen Byram or we'll take Kirby Dach? The only team that I could see maybe changing that decision would be Chicago, and that's just because they desperately need defense. And that would be the only reason.
Yeah. Well, at least in Detroit's case, you will be able to see them out on the golf course. So if you want to head up the golf course, at least digitally, WGT Golf is the game for you. It's loved by more than 20 million players around the world. And if you want to join the DNVR fam, go on over to DNVRgolf.com to download. And be sure to search for DNVR2, our second clubhouse. We did have a big clubhouse versus clubhouse event over the weekend. I streamed my 9 holes, and let me tell you, it did not go well. I went into it and I was hoping to keep my score under 300, which maybe would have put me at the bottom of the leaderboard. And I ended up putting in the water in multiple holes and it did not go well. So,
well, we have the name to be determined, but a celebration of July 4th weekend this weekend. We're having an 18-hole tournament, and because we're celebrating freedom and bald eagles are what is it, like our national bird or something?
Naturally.
If you get an eagle, you're going to get a special prize.
There you go. So shoot for an eagle this weekend. Apparently we have Sean K, who finished 3rd over the weekend. There we go. Carry the team. I don't know. Were you on DNVR 1 or DNVR 2? Because if you're on DNVR 1, represent. If you're on DNVR 2, you and AJ can get out. Either way. WGT Golf.
Yeah, what's up to represent?
Oh, killing me. DNVR to download. Be sure to play along. Obviously, we're all having a ton of fun with it here. We also, though, if you want to bet on real golf, have DraftKings Sportsbook as well, who has a ton of awesome action going on. We have some DraftKings pick of the weeks here. First of all, mine is any pitcher in the MLB, anyone, any single pitcher throws a no-hitter during this shortened season, plus 350. So you put down $10, you can win $35 for any pitcher in the league to throw a no-hitter. I think that one is an easy slam dunk. AJ took the other side of the ball here. He's going for the batters here.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to convince him to take Arenado, but he wouldn't do it.
It's true. I'm not in a 60-game sample, not knowing what the schedule looks like, not knowing how balanced it is, home, road, what the road one looks like, knowing that it's going to be heavy on division games and him having to go through Chavez Ravine and San Francisco and San Diego. I don't want to mess with Arenado's home run totals because he's going to be playing in more pitcher parks, and so I'm going with Bryce Harper.
Yeah,
especially because he's going to play for sure a bunch of games in stadiums where he's
total bandboxes. Yeah,
he's got the short right fields to his advantage, and he's turned himself into a home run hitter and not a guy that does a little bit of everything, because he apparently got super into the analytics and was like, I'm going to go for home runs only. And
for the record, Bryce Harper is plus 650 to lead the National League in home runs. So if it does work out, you get a good amount of cash coming back on the Bryce Harper pick from AJ.
Honestly, just throw down $20 on whatever I say every week, and then let me know how much I owe you at the end of the year.
You get one right eventually, and it'll make up for all of the
right. It'll pay for it. That's gambling, though, right?
Exactly right.
It's like baseball. You hit 300, and you're like, I'm elite. In gambling, it's like you hit 200, and you pay for the other 80.
Exactly. There you go. So that's the strategy over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Those are our DraftKings picks of the week. Be sure to get in on their $1,000 sign-up bonus while you still can. Use code DNVR when you sign up, and you can get that bonus. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25x playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast, talking about the lottery limbo that the NHL has left everybody in. So what's next? If you're a team in the play-in round, do you even think about this? Is this even, I'm not saying tank on intentionally or anything, but from a media perspective, what is your take on the first overall pick being up for grabs?
It's a dope potential consolation prize if you lose the qualifying round.
Okay.
That's it. Because you could go through any single one of those teams. Excuse me, as I have the hiccups. You go through any one of those teams, and like the impact that Laugh has on them is it varies, right?
Sure.
Like Toronto, it's more of the same. Maybe the least impact for Toronto. Immediate impact, maybe fallout.
You never know what a player's,
But a star like that landing in Columbus next to Pierre-Luc Dubois long term, could be huge for them. Obviously him landing next to Matt Barzal in with the Islanders, him ending up in Minnesota to have the kind of star power they've only ever had with Marian Gaborik, like that could be totally insane for the Wild. Right. That could be franchise changing for them.
There are places where he becomes the face of the franchise almost immediately.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he'd go to his hometown Montreal.
Yep.
And even though they're looking for a center, like that's a team that I think people sleep on. Like I think the Habs have a lot of just solid players. And like it's really like, okay, well, if they get great goaltending, and when you're paying $10 million to a goaltender, you freaking should.
Yep.
But like he could really elevate them, and they have a really interesting farm system. Just tons of guys that are really interesting. So he could vault them into something special. And what if he lands in Vancouver next to Pettersson with Quinn Hughes, like that and Brock Besser and Bo Horvat, like. That takes Vancouver and it puts them into Colorado's league. of, oh my God, these guys are scary.
And this is what we were talking about in why you want to limit the lottery to the worst 10 teams, because this is what can happen is you can take a borderline team and make them great if they win this.
Yeah. You look at what happens if Edmonton, seriously, like what happens if he lands in Edmonton? Good Lord, man.
At what point do you just say we don't need defenders?
What happens if he does land in Chicago, where they've got Taves and Kane and DeBrincat and Doc, and then Laugh to build around? Not to mention that they just had a rookie who had a 30-goal season that nobody wants to talk about because it was a historic class for defensemen. Like, Chicago quietly is building like something a little scary out there. And that's not even including the possibility that Dylan Strome or Alex Nylander actually turn into like good NHL players.
Yep.
They could be such a huge benefactor if you add Lafreniere into what Chicago's doing, and it's just like we had fun. We had a fun like 3 years dunking on them being terrible, but now it's like
they turned it around pretty quick. Yeah.
We'll have to listen to more of this Jonathan Taves for the Hall of Fame stuff.
I mean, well, they still have a big question mark in goal, in my opinion, but yeah.
Sure. But, I mean, them, like, wherever they end up, they end up picking, like, 10, 11, 12. We're talking Askarov. They pick first, we're talking Laugh, and you're like, the difference there. Phew.
I'm watching Patrick Kane dominate the Central Division from the wing for a decade, and then it's like, cool, here's another decade of that with Lafreniere. Not great.
Or, I mean, good God, he lands in Nashville and all the work that they've done.
I didn't even want to bring that up because that would just be the nightmare scenario, right?
Like that's how you awaken a sleeping giant.
Yep.
And I don't want them to win either. I don't want Nashville to. I don't even want to take that chance, man.
Yep.
Because I don't want to see them in the playoffs because they're scary, and I don't want them to win the lottery because they'd be.
Yeah, the Avs need to not get that fourth seed, and then Nashville can win the play-in round and lose to St. Louis or whatever.
Yeah. Man, how nice is it now that Dallas ended up in that spot because we don't have to worry about that either.
Yep.
Like there are 3 central teams in the seeding, and it's like suddenly it's like, okay, well, this is kind of nice.
Won't have to play them in round 1.
Yeah, honestly, I just don't land out west. Colorado's actually been lucky with that because Hughes and Kakko both go out east. I guess it ended up not being as big a deal as we thought, but Heischer and Patrick end up out east, and they only get Haskin and Doc, who of course come in division. But then even the Dahlin draft, all those guys went out east.
Yep. It's just the one central team that always seems to jump up.
Yeah.
That has me scared here.
Well, and it was Winnipeg's draw that won that won that lotto spot. So it's history held.
Yep.
It was a central team that jumped up, but now they might get worked out of it, which please let that be the case.
Mm-hmm.
I already told Z she's not bringing a Laugh Winnipeg Jets jersey across that border.
Not gonna allow it. Custom gonna claim that one.
Not okay with it.
All right. Well, closing up the show today, AJ. Any final thoughts on this draft lottery stuff? And can we fix it? Is it fixable?
Yeah, just some tweaks. Honestly, just
not
some
a
tweaks.
major overhaul.
Just the same kind of tweaks that they made to try and dissuade the tanking, where it was like, oh, we don't need to make a ton of changes. We just need to change a few things here and there.
Okay. Keep it simple, stupid. Got it.
Yeah, like just tweak the odds a little bit so that the teams who are at the bottom are actually getting a better chance. Because it's like you go through the misery of a last place season or a close to last place season, you have like a 30% chance for top 3 pick. It's like, dude, come on.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be this bad, like the NBA turned it into total chaos because
that's just madness.
They had teams like, Philadelphia was like, hey, we're going to spend 5 years doing this because it's just, you have to have a but that's the NBA where you have to have a superstar to be worth a damn.
Yep.
And in the NHL, you could, if you have 4 top 5 picks in the NHL, you better have a really good team. You better build something good around them.
Yep. Agreed. Excuse me. Well, on that note, so, when it comes to the NHL draft lottery, it's a lot like manscaping. Just a little bit of trim around the edges to fix things up and make it look good. It doesn't take a full weed whacker down there or anything crazy all the time.
Yeah, wasn't there a lawnmower so...
Yeah, it's sold out.
So popular, it's sold out
straight
for the
up
moment.
Sold out, yeah. So you can't even get the
all these dudes in quarantine. We're like, well, we got to take care of this.
Yeah, exactly. So at that point, look, the key here, the double secret, guys, what I'm going to tell you on this one, get your lady to buy it for you. And then she'll think she helped you make it look good. Everybody wins. She'll think it looks nice. You'll think it looks nice. Everybody will think they contributed to this amazing Greek Adonis statue that you have created, whether it be below the belt, above the belt, you name it, with their trimmer, their amazing package of whether it be cologne, whether it be shave mats, whether it be deodorant, whether it be toner, and many other products as well. Get on it while you still can, and head on over to manscaped.com. Use code DNVR20 to get 20% off and free shipping. If something is sold out, they will get it back in stock soon, so just keep an eye out for the next time that trimmer is in stock. Look at that. We even have 3.0 is amazing. The new trimmer, confirmed, legit. We're going to get out of here for the day. Thank you, everyone, as always, for listening. Much appreciated to all of our live viewers and to those of you listening to the audio after the fact. We will be back tomorrow with another episode, and then I believe we have an interview on Wednesday. We'll see what we have planned for the rest of the week. Until then, goodbye.